My name is Jack, and for some backstory, I'm a pilot for the US Air Force. A guy I know named Alan told me about this page, so I decided to tell my encounter with a UFO. This story takes place in 2020 in northern Alaska. I am stationed at Ellendorf Air Force Base to be exact, about 30 miles away from Anchorage. I've been stationed here for nearly 2 years. I fly the F-22 Raptor. Most people will say the best aircraft to ever exist, which is true. Other than the occasional intercept of Russian bombers here once every few months, nothing really ever happens. I love that it's peaceful here. No sorties constantly, no mandatory PT times, good food, real nice people, and nice cold weather. I've always been a person to like the cold weather. I have my own apartment basically on the base. It was a 1-bed, 1-bathroom, and it had a kitchen and a dining room too. It's a nice little home, close by to the hangars, just in case I have to do a sortie. My wingman has an apartment right next to mine, since both of our jets were right next to each other in the hangar. Me and my wingman, Braxton, are really close. We've been best friends for about 7 years now. He has a real nice family, 2 kids and a wife. His life is perfect. I was the best man at his wedding, and I was even there for his firstborn. He's the closest thing I'll ever have to a brother. This story starts a day before the incident. Birds begin chirping as I begin to wake up. My door unlocks as Braxton walks in. "Hey, good morning, Jack. You ready to get some PT in?" "My God, Braxton, I'll be out in 5. Just wait for me by the exit." "After we do this, you want to get some food?" he asked. "Yeah, of course. Knowing me, I'll be starving." "Alright, I'm gonna head down." "Okay, I'll be down in 5. "Copy that, sir," as he saluted me in a joking way. I chuckled as he walked away. I put on my workout clothes and walked out to meet him at the exit. "It took you long enough," he said. "Shut up, let's go." We jogged about 3 miles together around the base before we went back to grab some food. "It's only 12 p.m., earlier than usual," said Braxton. "Yeah, man, that means we can get some food earlier than usual." "What's your wife fixing for breakfast today?" I asked. "Pancakes and bacon." "Yeah, this is gonna be a good meal," I said as we walked into his apartment, which was much larger than mine. I was greeted by his kids. I said hi to all of them and then said hi to his wife as I sat down and began to dig in. After I finished eating up, I got up and said thank you to his wife. "I'll talk to you later, Braxton. See you later, man." I walked out and closed the door behind me. I went back to my apartment and unlocked the door and walked in. Sat down on my couch and grabbed my Xbox controller and began playing some Xbox. After about 3 hours of playing and watching movies, I got up and went to the kitchen to cook me some toast and butter. It was around 4 p.m., so about time for lunch. And I fixed myself a bologna sandwich and got back to gaming. Around 7, I got up and made some chicken for dinner. And after dinner, I went to lay down and watch some movies on my bed. After about 2 hours of watching Criminal Minds, I fell asleep. And I was awoken by alarms from the base. My door busts open and Braxton screams. "Command says radar is picking up an unidentified aircraft about 700 miles out." I jumped out of bed and quickly put on my flight suit. "Let's go." And we ran down to the hangar. The ground crew was inside, loading up our F-22s with AIM 120 Sparrows and AIM 9X Sidewinders. "This definitely isn't a drill," I screamed. "Yeah, you don't say." I ran to the side of my jet and put on my helmet, got onto the ladder and got into the cockpit. The canopy closed and the ground crew began towing me and Braxton out of the hangar. "Strata 1 and Strata 2, you two are moving 700 miles north to intercept unknown aircrafts. We have no clue what it is and we know it's not a civilian or a US aircraft, so you have permission to engage. We've tried to make contact, but we have received no response," said the control tower. "Copy that," Braxton and I said. "Strider 1 weapons check. All weapons good. Strider 2 weapons check. All weapons good. Strider 1, you're cleared to taxi. Copy that. I moved my F-22 to the runway and pushed my engine power to the max. My jet rushed down the runway until I was airborne. Strider 1, altitude restriction lifted. Form up with Strider 2 at 10,000 feet. I began increasing altitude until I got to 10,000 feet and maintained a speed of 500 miles per hour. Hey Strider 1, this is Strider 2, forming up on your left wing. Copy that, Strider 2. I looked out my cockpit and saw him pulling up on my left wing. Alright Braxton, increase speed to 1200 miles per hour so we can catch up with this thing. Copy that, Jack. I looked back as both of us broke the sound barrier and as both our speeds began increasing up to 1200 miles per hour. Hey Braxton, look at your radar, we're picking it up. It's about 534 miles away. We'll be there in about 45 minutes. Yeah, I see it and it's going pretty slow for a plane. It could be a helicopter, said Braxton. I don't know about that. They would have responded, and if it's Russian, we would have detected them crossing the Bering Strait. Yeah, I know something strange is happening and I don't like it. It's also pretty weird the command has given us a kill-on-sight order. Something must be up. I said, well, alright, we're about 290 miles away, so it won't be long until we reach lock-on distance. Alright, once we hit 120 miles away from the target, arm your AIM-120 arms, I said to Braxton. Copy that, he replied. Our Raptors are flying at around 20,000 feet in pure darkness. The only way we could see is with our helmet's night vision. 150 miles away. Copy that, Strider 2, I said as our jets tore through the sky, heading towards the unknown aircraft. As we flew closer, I looked at the radar as we hit 130. Within 30 seconds, we hit the 125 mark. I flipped a switch and I aimed. Alright Braxton, once we can secure a radar, lock, open fire. Copy that. I got it. I lifted my control panel and flipped the switch and opened the missile bay. Firing. I fired 2 missiles at the unknown aircraft. I saw them tear through the sky at Mach 4 until I couldn't see them anymore. Shortly after, I heard on comms. I got the lock too, firing. As I watched his missiles tear through the sky. Continue flying until you can confirm that the unknown aircraft has been downed, said command. This is Strider 1, copy that. This is Strider 2, copy. Braxton and I waited anxiously as we watched our missiles on radar close in on the aircraft. We watched as they got closer and closer until the missiles disappeared. And I watched as the unknown aircraft didn't disappear off of the radar. Did we miss? Asked Braxton. If those missed, we are not dealing with a helicopter. Do you still have a radar lock? Yeah, I do. Well, let's fire the remaining AIM-120s, and if that doesn't work, then we'll move in closer and use our AIM-9Xs. Copy that, Jack. Firing, I said. My missile bay doors opened as the last 2 AIM-120s launched, and seconds later, Braxton did the same. We watched our missiles go through the sky on our radar until they disappeared, just like the ones before. Our distance was about 65 miles away from the target. Hey, we're closing in on it. We'll be there in about 15 minutes. Arm your AIM-9s. AIM-9's armed, I said. At this point, I could tell that Braxton was getting nervous. And heck, so was I. I didn't know what I was dealing with. As we closed in, I realized the unknown aircraft was decreasing in altitude. Is it going down? I asked. It might be, but I don't know. It's going down rapidly. Decrease throttle and go into a dive to try and receive a lock, I said. Copy that. I pushed up on the stick as my aircraft began to dive. We both got into a steep dive towards the target until I received a radar lock. I got a lock, firing sidewinders, I said as my side missile bay doors opened, as I fired 2 sidewinders at the target, and I watched as Braxton did the same. Our missiles soared through the sky heading towards the target, but this time I saw the missiles explode. I watched as the aircraft continued to decrease in altitude, and I decreased speed to about 500 miles per hour as I tried to decrease altitude to 5,000 feet. As soon as I went underneath the clouds, I saw something that I will never forget. My blood went cold and my body went numb. I saw a giant saucer in flames, slowly decreasing in altitude. "My God," I said fearfully. What is that?" said Braxton. "I don't know." My hands were shaking at the sight. There were many small explosions on the ship while it slowly went down. "Jack, look," screamed Braxton as 5 pods launched from the saucer. "Jesus Christ." I screamed as pure adrenaline and instinct kicked in. All 5 pods began charging at Braxton and I. "Evasive maneuvers," Braxton screamed as me and him both began evading the pods that went past us. I looked behind and realized the pods were coming back around. I pulled a 180-degree turn to face my aircraft at the pods. The G's were hard on my body, but the adrenaline was in full control. The pods began shooting projectiles at my jet. I realized this and barrel rolled over to my right, lining my 20mm gun up with one of the pods. I pulled the trigger and watched as my bullets tore the pod apart. "I got one," I screamed. "Jack, I got one on my tail, I need your help," said Braxton in an absolutely terrified voice. "Copy that, I'm coming around." I pulled a 90-degree turn and sped up to reach Braxton's location. I saw him only about 5 miles out. I pushed the throttle up to the max and sped up to get onto the pod's tail. As I got closer, I slowed down a little and I got on its tail. The pod had a small engine emitting a blue light out of its back. The blue light exposed the weapon on the bottom that was trying to shoot down my wingman. "All right, I'm on it." "Thank God, get him off of me," Braxton said fearfully. "Turn left on my mark. 3, 2, 1. I watched as his jet turned left and the pod went straight into my crosshairs. I pulled the trigger and watched the pod explode midair and fall down to the ground. "2 more coming up front," Braxton said as I watched as the 2 pods closed in fast. I pulled a 25% turn and angled my jet towards the pods. I pulled the trigger at the pod and watched the 3rd pod explode. "Another one down." "Hey, I got one too." Command then chimed in. "Strider Squadron, good work. Attempt to ground the main target and eliminate any other threats. Reinforcements are on the way." "This is Strider 1 to command. What's the ETA on those reinforcements?" "About 15 minutes, they said." "Copy. Braxton, form up on my left wing. Let's move to engage." "Copy that, Jack." I looked at my radar and began moving to the location on the main aircraft. About 3 minutes go by and we arrived. The craft was a saucer that was leaning downwards on its front side. The ship was in flames and the front was opened up and tore apart. The ship had 4 massive engines and only 2 were active. The front 2 were down and the other 2 were the only things allowing it to slowly decrease in altitude. "Jesus Christ," I said. "Come on, we have a mission to do. We need to take this thing down," Braxton said nervously. "Target the right engine and I'll take the left one." "Copy that." I moved my aircraft into a position to fire on the aircraft. As soon as I got a clear shot, I opened fire with my 22mm cannons. After firing on it for about 2 seconds, the engine exploded, and the ship began to fall rapidly. Not even 30 seconds later, the saucer crashes into the snow and explodes. "This is Strider 1. Target is down. Sending the coordinates." "Copy that, Strider 1, good work. Cover the area until the reinforcements arrive." "Copy that." I decreased my altitude to 3,000 feet and watched as I flew by the downed ship that was in rubble and flames. Jesus, man, what just happened? I don't know. I really don't. We patrolled the area for about 15 minutes until we got the all clear to return to base. It took us about 45 minutes to return. "Strider 1 and 2, when you land, report to my office immediately." "Copy that," me and Braxton both said. Braxton decreased altitude and landed his F-22 in the airstrip safely and backed it into his hangar. After he was off the runway, I went in for a landing. I deployed my air brake, decreasing throttle and altitude until I was about 450 feet up and going 250 miles per hour, when I deployed my landing gear and landed safely. The ground crew escorted my jet to its hangar and backed it in. As soon as I got out of my jet, 3 guys in full black suits came up to me. "The commander wants to see you," one of them said, and I began walking over to the office. The commander sat us down and began talking to us. "No one except for the higher-ups will know about this. If somebody leaks intel, you will be punished. Here are 2 non-disclosure agreements. Sign them or we will force you to sign them." I looked up and said, "Okay, sir," and began signing the papers. My hands were shaking the entire time after that. Braxton also signs and we both stand up. "Okay, gentlemen, thank you for your support. Now go get some rest," the commander said. Me and Braxton both went back to our apartments, and when I walked in, I got on my bed and just thought about what had happened that day. This is something I'll never forget.